Hello everyone, here is Ali Talabi. Welcome back to the world of finance and investment. Today we are going to finish our regular lectures for the time value of money. This is the third lesson from the fifth module. The next lesson will review some major concepts and common mistakes, and I will come back with some questions which are related to this module. Today and in this lesson, I'm going to talk about two specific topics. One is the differences between the real interest rate and real cash flow versus the nominal cash flow and nominal interest rate. Also, I will talk about something which is called effective rate or effective annual rate, and I will show you the differences between the effective annual rate and the annual percentage rate. So let's start our session today. So let's start with an example. I come to you and say, you know what? I have a very excellent, outstanding offer. And you say, Ali, what's that your offer? So, you know what? If you give me your money, I will pay you 10% annual interest rate. So, for example, if you give me $100, I will pay you back $110 1 year from now. The risk factor, if you put aside the risk factor, you have to consider another important factor, which is inflation. So, and for sure, the inflation highly depends on the context you live, and the country you live, and the kind of environment you live. If in your economy the inflation is like 2%, 3%, maybe you are not that concerned with that. But if you are living in the kind of economies such we will see in some developing countries or in some African countries or Asian countries, if the inflation is high, we call that like a hyperinflation. In this case, maybe you need to double think about the offer. For example, if you live in an economy which inflation is like 20%, it means on annual basis you are losing the purchasing power by 20%. So even if you receive 10% interest, actually you're losing. So you are not earning the actual real 10%. You are earning much less, and in this case you're actually losing your money. That's the whole argument of real rate versus nominal rate. What we do to find the actual real rate, we take out the impact of inflation. So in my case, if you want to see actually what's happening with 10% nominal rate or the offered rate and 20% inflation, you are approximately losing 10%, which is 10 minus 20%. We call that approximate version of real interest rate. So that's one way. Just simply say, okay, 10 minus 20%, that's minus 10%. So I'm losing almost 10%. That's my real interest rate. But if you want to actually calculate the exact real interest rate, that's the formula you see here. That's the formula we use. So real interest rate is 1 plus nominal rate divided by 1 plus inflation minus 1. So that's how you calculate real interest rate. So let me go with another example. Let's assume that your nominal rate is 5%. Again, be careful when I'm saying nominal rate, that's the suggested or the offered rate. So if you go to bank, they offer you 5% annual interest rate. If you have investment, it's 5%, that's your nominal rate, which means the inflation is part of that. So let me call this a real interest rate. RIR, nominal interest rate, NIR, which is your nominal interest rate or NIR. And the inflation in this case is, let's say, 2%. So inflation is 2%. One way to calculate the RIR or real interest rate, you just simply subtract that 2% from 5, which gives you 3%. That's the approximate version. But the exact version, which also is called Fisher equation, that's what you see on the slide, and that's what I'm doing here. So the real interest rate, or the exact real interest rate, is 1 plus nominal interest rate, which is 5%, divided by 1 plus the inflation, which is 2%. So it's, and this minus 1, the whole ratio minus 1. So that's 1.05. So let me use my calculator. So it's 1.05 divided by 1.02 minus 1. So you get 2.94%. So let me just write it down, 2.9%, about 2.9%. You see that 2.9% is a bit less than the real interest rate, which is 3%. Again, why? Because in the formula, we are considering the compounding factor. That's a more accurate way of calculating the real interest rate. Here, that's an approximate version, especially if the inflation is high, the nominal interest rate is high. This is much less accurate. So if you use the approximate version, it's much less accurate than the exact version, which is the Fisher equation. So just make sure that you are using the exact version if you have the high inflation, high nominal interest rate. So in my case, actually, I'm not getting 5%, I'm getting 2.9%, as you see there. Now, let me start to explain the effective annual interest rate. Let me start with an example. You go to your bank and you get your credit card, and most of credit cards, maybe all of them actually, they charge interest if you don't pay your balance by the end of period. So they charge different rates, 20%, 24%. Let's go with 24% annual interest rate. Now, here you have to be careful because that 24% annual rate, they say it's called annual percentage rate. That's what they quote, or sometimes called quoted rate. Usually they charge interest on monthly basis, which means on each month, at the end of each month, if you don't pay your balance, they charge you 2%, which is 24% divided by 12. So that's how they charge you, 2%. Now, if you don't pay your balance, which means even if you don't pay your interest next month, not only they charge you for the principal, whatever you owed, let's say $1,000, you have balance in your account, they charge 2% for that $1,000, which is $20. On the top of that, in the second month, they charge you 2% for the interest you haven't paid yet. So 2% of $20, which is 40 cents. So the argument here is not only you're paying interest on principal, but also you're paying interest on interest. And we learn that when it comes to compounding, when it comes to interest on interest, the actual rate is higher. Now, how much higher? So you can use the formula you see here, which is called EAR, effective annual rate, to find the actual rate. So in my case, the APR is 24%. The M is 12. We're talking about the monthly, so the frequency of compounding is 12, and M is 12. Now you can use your calculator to find the EAR for in this case. So it's 1 plus 24% divided by 12, which is 2%. So 1 plus 2%, which is 1.02. So it's 1.02 to power of, so if you have y to power of x function, use it. So 1.02 to power of 12 minus 1. So it gives me 26%. So as you see here, this is 0.268. So the actual interest rate, effective interest rate, is not 24%. It is 26.8%. So next time when you decide to pay, to not pay actually your balance on the credit card, rethink about that and consider the effective rate, not the annual percentage rate. Now, the last note. Maybe you say, Ali, what if I pay the interest or they charge the interest on weekly basis? What if they charge on daily basis? As the frequency of compounding is going up, the effective rate also is going up. The maximum effective rate will be based on this formula. That's exponential of APR. So if you have e to power of x function in your calculator, you should be able to use it. So instead of x, you will use APR. So use your calculator. That's your homework. Use your calculator, e to power of x minus 1, and I will provide you the answer, the EAR. My hint, it should be a little more than 27%. So your EAR, in this case, that's the highest EAR they can charge you based on the most frequent time of compounding. So they cannot charge you more than this. So that's the highest AER you can get. Thank you very much. This is our last lesson from the fifth module. Next lesson, I will talk about some questions and we'll review those questions together. Have a wonderful day. Here is Ali Talibi. Talk to you soon.